And so now we want to invite our friends from Teen Challenge to come up.
I'd like to introduce my brothers Charlie, Mickey, and brother Alan. With that, Mickey's going to kick us off.
Thank you for the introduction. God bless you, Zion Church. I want to thank you so much for opening your doors and let us come in and share the faith, hope, and love that's in our hearts, given by the Father and His Son and what He did for us on the cross. Like our speaker first said, I didn't come from the greatest of families. It was a broken home, a broken atmosphere. Church just wasn't part of anything in our lives, or my life especially. And so, with that being said, I went out seeking the things of the world and the ways of the world, the life, the party, the excitement, the business, you name it. I sought it out, and it was in 1997, after my brother had passed away, and I just felt this yearning, this wooing of the Holy Spirit. It was so strange to me because I felt so distant from God and church and all. Like, what would He want with me? But that year I finally hit my knees and I gave my life to Him. And, I'd like to say that's where everything got better. But no, that's really where the battle began for my life, my soul, my spirit, body, soul, and spirit, mind, will, and emotions. And I was a little hard-headed, so, I tried to do things my way, and that just didn't work out too much. God is faithful, and what He says is what He means, and what He means will set you free. And it took me a while to get that. And so with that being said, there was a lot of heartaches and pains along the way for me to let go of me and let Him be the ruler, leader, and guide in my life. And I can honestly say now I have a joy that's within me that I just can't explain. I have a peace within me that I just cannot explain. Although I do have times when I hurt and I suffer, it's Him, my father, my daddy. I went looking for a father and I found a daddy. Somebody that loved me anyway, that'll help me up. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have that before. And He just has a way of touching our hearts right where we need it. I ended up in Teen Challenge, like I said, because I was not doing some fundamental things that I needed to do. About 12 years ago, I broke the ice and I started going to church. And, it was way different than what I imagined it to be. And I learned church community. I learned church family. I learned so much. We hung Christmas lights. We did the Christmas party, white elephant thing or whatever it's called. And just so beautiful. But there was some fundamental things that I was doing that wasn't doing that I should have been doing. And when tragedy struck, I just wasn't able to handle it. And I would fall into a deep depression. And so my pastor down in Florida where I'm from told me, he says, why don't, you go figure out, why it is you periodically do this. And so I came to Teen Challenge. And it was there that they gave me the opportunity to just learn Jesus. This gave me, I used to brag because I didn't even know how much bread cost, or butter or whatever. I just had time to seek His face, and I found a lot of healing there. And right now I'm an intern there, and so there's a lot of people there who come from broken homes, and I'm able to pour into their lives and share the hope that He's given me to help these guys. And it's nothing like answering the call that God gives you. And it's just it's like home. It's like a piece of the puzzle that just fits. And so with that being said, I just want to thank you and thank the Lord Jesus Christ for leading me here and for all he's done in my life, and to give him glory, honor, and praise. This is my precious brother Alan, and one of my bosses, so I got to be nice to him. Here you go.
God bless everyone. I want to ask everyone to be patient with me because I have a phobia, and it is speaking in front of people here. But the Word of God says to always be ready to share the Word. My testimony is a little bit different from my brothers over here because I was raised in a household, a godly household. My mother's side of the family was mostly missionary in Puerto Rico and South America, and my father gave his life to Jesus at 15 years old. He never looked back. And I was very close with my family. I loved them very much. And I was always, the closest one that I was to was my father. I always went everywhere with him, whenever he went to preach in churches and everything. He was a great speaker. He was a great preacher. My departness from I guess my family and God started in junior high school. It's a story that happened so many times. I heard it a million times in Teen Challenge, But my testimony is one of gratefulness and of faith because I went through so much in my lifetime, being in the streets, and it wasn't until the end. So I'm grateful to Teen Challenge, but Teen Challenge was a tool that God used to bring me back to my roots. And I'm so grateful for that also, But through everything that I went, and I know time is limited here, but, to be in junior high school and now departing and going into the worldly ways, a father that I love so much, and he caught stage 4 cancer. And he was a great man of faith. And when my father caught cancer and I moved out of my apartment to go move in with him, I still was, I was working, but I was still kind of in the world also. And I remember my father, I bought a futon for my living room, and my father slept in it one day. So when I would come home from work, my father would be in the futon. And he would be sleeping sometimes, and I would go over and I would put my hand on his head. And even though I was in the world, I was raised in the faith, and I would have conversations with God. I would say, Father, this is a godly man. And I know, Father, he's been serving you all his life. And then I would say, God, please, I'm asking you, because I know there's nothing impossible for you. Please heal my father. One day, I did this not every day, but every now and then I did it. And one day I go to do it again, and this time my father opens his eyes and he says, Mijo, that's like a kind word of saying, my dear son. He goes, Mijo, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, sure, Daddy. I usually cook him stuff that he's not supposed to eat, but I would do it anyway. But he asked me, he goes, if God was to heal me of cancer now on this earth, would I live on this earth forever? He caught me completely off guard, with that question, but I knew I was raised in the faith. So I said to him, no, Father, because, from dust we come, to dust we have to go. And with a smile in his face, and forgive me because I'm choking a little bit here, but, he said to me, the question is not dying. That's what he was saying to me. He goes, if I don't die today, I'm going to die one day. That's not the point. The point is if we die with God in our heart, if we die with Christ in our heart. And, I said to myself, until this day, I still say, man, what faith? What faith? He was not afraid of death. My mother and my father would be in the living room, and he knew his time was limited. He knew his time was coming. And I was hurting so bad because I loved this man so much and what cancer does to a person and everything. And I have a video of my father that I watch every now and then. And in his weakest moment, he used to play guitar. And he's playing guitar and singing songs to God in the living room with my family. My father, is in heaven with God right now. My testimony is that right after my father passed away, they sent me, I got tricked into going to Teen Challenge. And they told me there's only one bed left. There's 200 Teen Challenges all over the world. And they didn't want me in New York because I'm from New York. So I came to Pennsylvania because I had a brother who lives in Pennsylvania. And in Teen Challenge is when, I started returning to my roots. And my testimony is this, that in the midst of everything that I went through, in the midst of that pain with my father, the sadness there, in the midst of the pain of, unfortunately, withdrawing from things that we did in the world, in the end, God showed me that he was there throughout the whole thing. I finished Teen Challenge, I became an intern. I went home to New York to visit my mother, and I'm having this conversation with my mother, and I'm telling her how much I suffered because I mourned my father alone at Teen Challenge. And during this conversation, she said two things to me. Number one, she said to me that, God granted me the opportunity to say goodbye to my father before I went to Teen Challenge. I was the one that, took care of him. I fed him. I gave him his baths and everything. And the other one was, and this is the one that brought tears to my eyes, because she said to me, your father, when we would go to bed, he had a big fear. He didn't want to die in a hospital alone. He did not. And he didn't. He died next to me. He was sleeping in the futon, and I came home. He was very weak. I gave him a kiss. I said a prayer over him. I laid next to him, and the next morning I went to give him a kiss, and he was cold. God took him. I know in my heart that he's with my Heavenly Father right now. I know he was saved. There's no doubt about that. But that's how God works. That's the testimony I want to give to everyone. That in our darkest moments, when in the end, as I'm having this conversation with my mother, I started to cry, and I gave her this big heart, and I told her, thank you so much. That, yes, I did get a chance to say goodbye to my father. And yes, I know in my heart that he's in heaven right now. And anyone, through whatever it is that we go through, sometimes, I did it, I did it. Sometimes we think God is not there. Trust me, God is there. No matter what it is that you're going through, that's why he says, without faith it's impossible to please God. My faith has grown so strong, not because of Teen Challenge, because how God has revealed himself in my life. I've taken too much time. God bless you. Thank you for that. I'm going to hand it over to my brother Charlie.
Good morning, church. My name's Charlie. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. I moved up in Pennsylvania in 1980. My mother, father was bootleggers, runners, moonshine houses. That's where I come from. Very racist time I went through in the 60s, 70s. I always knew God because all I had to prayed always that carrying water, going to visit my family, that I would make it on my journey safe. When I moved in Pennsylvania in 1980, it was a weird move. The racism wasn't there. Everybody got along. And it was weird to me that I was able to go up to certain people and carry on a conversation and introduce myself without fear of being beaten or hurt. I went through school, dropped out in the 12th grade. Mother moved back home, dropped out in 12th grade, went to Job Corps, got my GED, took up a trade. In 1984, I was introduced to crack cocaine. And that started the down spiral of my life in my drug addiction. I thought that was what I was put here to do, was get high, party, and celebrate, hurt, lie, cheat, steal, All those things that came with my addiction is what I thought that I was here to do. In 2020, I fell on my knees in this dope house, and I asked God to deliver me, to take all that away from me, because I had lost a fiance, 3 kids in a house in 8 hours, and I was running back and forth in the street, and I just finally surrendered there at that spot. And I woke up that morning, and I talked to him all that night, and I woke up that morning, and I started walking. And in the course of all that, I had picked up maybe 4 felonies, looking at 5 to 10 years on the run. And I end up walking and testifying and just getting rid of everything that I had, Satan had of me, drugs and everything. And I walked to the probation office in 2020, my birthday, 12/2020, and I turned myself in. And looking at 5 to 10, but I knew I had to give up. I had to surrender to something greater than me, and that was God. When I went there, they rushed out and threw me on the ground. I said, I'm turning myself in. I ain't got nothing. But it didn't matter because of the charges that I had pending. You know, I was a harm to myself and others, as they thought. I went to jail, did a year, prayed, asked for help. Every time I went in front of the judge, Your Honor, I need help. I need help. And they kept saying, okay. So I filled out a couple of applications for Salvation Army and got denied, and still going to church. And I had been to jail many a times, but this time I went and I picked up that Bible, and it got a hold of me, and I couldn't put it down. And I talked to my counselors, and they seen that I was trying to be different that time. And it was all Lord, it was all God. My counselor said, there's this place called Adult Teen Challenge. I said, I ain't going up there no bunch of teenagers. I'm a grown adult, what I'm going? She's like, no, Charlie, it's Adult Teen Challenge. And I was like, well, I'm asking for help, and this is what you have for me. I am going to accept it, because I have turned down and walked away from so many positive things in my life that it was time, and that was the change that God had put in front of me. So I came to Team Challenge, straight from jail, straight to Team Challenge. And I got out the car in front of intake, and I looked at this beautiful mountain. And I was like, wow, I can look at that for a year. The guy came out and said, okay, just don't get lost in that. And I didn't understand what he was talking about. So he was telling me that there were some issues that I had to address, that I had to work on. And eventually, after the first year, I did all right. You know what I mean? I didn't get to the root of my problem. You know what I mean? About 16 months, I started to deal with the molestation that my brother did to me. For a long time, that kept me sick, because when I had issues addressing that molestation, I used drugs because I didn't want to deal with it. And the only way was to smother it, that thoughts that was going through my mind. Am I this way? Am I that way? Was I wrong? All that, when it came about, I used drugs, so I wouldn't have to think about it or deal with it. But when I came to Teen Challenge, I had no drugs. All I had was God. And I addressed those issues. And he delivered me from those issues. I was on bipolar medicine. I was on all these kind of pills that I thought I had to have to make me better. No, Jesus did that for me. I'm no longer on sleep meds, no nothing. You know, I just like, God said, you don't need that. All you need is me. Listen to me and I would take care of you. I would provide for you. And he did. And so as I went through the program, I graduated September 2022, and I went home. The whole year I was there, I never went home. I wrote to my kids. My kids didn't want nothing to do with me. Daddy, you done told us, you've been to jail so many times. Your favorite word, I'm going to be different. I'm going to do this when I get out. So they got fed up with it. You know what I mean? They no longer wanted to believe. Then they no longer believed that I would able to change my ways. But Lord changed my way. And I told them I'm going to church. I've been baptized. I've been saved. I found God. They was like, okay. So I went home after I graduated September 22. I went home and I talked to my kids, and I prayed with them, and I sat there and I listened to what they had to say, how they felt. And they was like, well, you lied to us, you beat us, you neglect us, you know what I mean, you're a worthless father, and I just took it. And I let them get that off their chest. And I remember God put the words in my mouth. You don't have to forgive me for me. Forgive me for you. Because see, I held a lot of grudges and accusations against my father and my mother for things that they did wrong. And I felt, and I said, you see how me holding that against my parents had me parent to you. I said, you're going to be a parent one day. So don't hold what you feel towards me in you. Let it out so you can be a better parent than I was to you, to your kids. And I walked out of there, I cried, and next thing you know, I'm in a bad neighborhood where kids live, passing bars. I picked up the phone, I said, Pastor Bradley, I need help. I called the pastor right away. I talked to him all the way home, to my sister's house, cried, but I did not stop at that bar. I did not go to that corner. I did not call a so-called friend. I called my pastor, which is Jesus, was at that time to me, because he prayed for me and carried me through that moment where I felt vulnerable again. And I knew I didn't have to go to drugs because being vulnerable was okay. You know what I mean? Because he loved us at our weakness as he loved us in our strength. You know, and so when I came back to Teen Challenge, I was like, well, okay. God said, okay, well, you try to do all this, baptize, get saved for your kids. Now it's time to do it for you. It's time to do it for me. And I started a relationship with Jesus in September 22 when I came back. I said, okay, well, I'm going to do this for me and you, God. I can't serve you for what other people think that I should be doing or how I should live. If I don't live for you, then I can't live for you at all. And today I live for Jesus the way he has me live. I do for him what he won't done. And I don't, the look of people say, yeah, no. I know today, and in the process of committing and starting a relationship with Jesus Christ, now my kids, 22, 23, and 24, they call me daddy. And I got 3 grandkids. And when I went home one time, I said, Daddy, let's go to church. I was like, you going to church with me? Come, let's go. So the relationship, God, with those 3 kids, he has redeemed. You know, and now they understand. They gave me they thought I was going to fail because I done said I'm going to change so many times that I never did. You know, so they was set back waiting. And, you know, I had counselors telling me to continue to write to them even though they wouldn't respond, share my change process with the Lord with them, you know, and let them, even though they don't respond to me, still do my part. Because they waiting on me to stop sending you letters while you don't return. And I did it. You know, and by the grace and only the grace that he provides for me today, you know, I have a loving relationship with my kids, and I still struggle. You know, I still have 3 kids that left me in 2022 that I haven't seen in the 5 years that I've been at Teen Challenge. But that's okay, because see, I know that today God is providing for them as he did for them when I was with them in my addiction. When I was there living with them, not doing anything. He still provided for all of us. So I know today they well are. And I can accept that with no worry at all today, because I worry that they're okay, that I miss them, but that's just as a father should be about his children. You know, but I know one day God is a redeemer. He redeemed 3 more. He would do 3 more in his will. Because I said right quickly when I was up there the first year, I just want to get back to my kids. I just want to do my kids. I miss my kids. You know what I mean? Then God said to me, if I give them to you right now, Charlie, what can you do different than you did when you had them? And with that, I get it, Richard.
Good morning once again, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity. I'd like to start off with Proverbs 3. I know everybody thinks of verses 5 and 6. I mean, that's part of it. But the beginning of that chapter says, my son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. For length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. Oh wait, I mixed some verses up. But verse 4. So you will find favor in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will bring healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. With that, I'm going to rewind back to when I was a child. My father was an alcoholic. He was very abusive. He beat my mother, sent her to work with black eyes. I mean, he beat us children. She got it the worst, though, because she always took the blame for things we did as kids. So there were 6 kids. So as a result of that, we all took it different ways. My little brother, he got older. He started getting in fights all the time. He got violent. My older brother, he was more, quiet, reserved. He mouthed off to people a little bit, but he didn't get into fights like that. And me, I was reclusive. I didn't speak, talk, do anything to people. I was just went where I had to go, and I didn't talk. I didn't try to create relationships with people, and I wouldn't be up on the stage talking at all. I'd be under the pew, hiding in my flesh. But the Lord had other plans. So around the age of 12, my mom left my father, and she was the complete opposite of my dad. Because of what we went through as children, we were we couldn't do anything. We had to, get off the bus, go right home, and we weren't able to go out and do things. He was very strict. I mean, we did stuff around the house, of course, chores, but other than that, we weren't allowed to go hang out with friends or nothing like that. So when my mom left and we moved into the town, and my mom let us run wild. So I took that and ran. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. I started selling drugs, using drugs. And throughout the years, it escalated. It got worse and worse. I developed this, after using crack cocaine, I got really bad into crack. I did many other drugs, but crack was the one that turned me into a monster. I got this euphoria from being a thief. I would get high, and I would break into homes. I would steal copper from abandoned buildings. I would just terrorize everywhere I went. And so as a result of that, I did about half my adult life in state prison for burglaries, DUIs, PWIDs, all kinds of different things. But when I would get locked up, I would do well inside prison. I wouldn't use drugs, because there's drugs in prison, whether people believe that or not, they're there. I wouldn't. I started doing positive things. Every time I get arrested and go to jail, I do positive things. I took an HVAC schooling, that there was a volunteer group. I took some seminary classes that a local college brought in for the inmates. And then, even since back then, this is all started. The Lord always would place a brother in my life that would encourage me to get up and speak, and talk about what the Lord's done in my life. And there was this lifer there. He was a great brother, man. He would be like, "Yeah, I need you to get up there and open up in prayer." I'm like, "What? I can't do that. Like, no way." And I still get nervous to this day talking up here. But, and then the next thing you know, after about a year there, he wants me to speak at the volunteer banquet. And this is the first big event. There was like 600, 700, 800 people there, like from, volunteers that come into the jail. And it was very nerve-wracking, but amazing after it was all finished, because it's fulfilling. So fast forward to Teen Challenge. Well, right before Teen Challenge, I was living in an apartment, and I was falling apart again. This was 2019, end of 2019. And I called my state parole agent. I said, this is the first time I asked for help. I said, I need help. And he's like, I got you. Calls Teen Challenge, calls me back. He's like, yeah, they don't have a bed available. Then I'm like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do? He's like, just give it a little time. So he calls me back 10 minutes later. He's like, oh, yeah, there's one open now. I'm like, this is great. So I go there, and I never understood the relationship with the Lord thing. As a child, my aunt took me to church. My great aunt, she took me to church. But I seen church as very laborious. I went to Salvation Army Church. They got them hats, all them buttons going on, and they're all tucked up. And I was like, this ain't me. So being at Teen Challenge, I started meeting brothers and actually getting into the Word. And there were many great brothers there, and the main one was Beast Mode. He stuck by my side. He would just be there for everything. I had court dates. He would go to every appointment with me. He would encourage me to get up here and speak. And when he asked, I couldn't say no, because the bro asked me. Because that's all I ever wanted was relationships, good relationships, and people to want me around, because I never had that. And I would just be up there. And it was just so gratifying to be able to get up and tell people what the Lord's done in my life. And now, to the day, I'm in college. I'm going for an associate's degree in project management, and I also have an HVAC diploma that I just went and got right before that. I'm married, beautiful wife, and Olivia, her child, and I have an older daughter, but she's back home. The relationship's a little rocky with that because I haven't been around most of her life, but the Lord's working. And with that, I feel like I'm getting really nervous. I'm pretty much done. And thank you very much.
That's good, right?